For his fall remarks, it is my pleasure to introduce our president, Bruce Shepard.
Thank you all. Cindy joins me in offering a warm welcome and welcome back to you all. We extend our congratulations to all the award winners. We take with you great pride in the pervasive excellence at Western that they do represent. 43 years ago, then President Jerry Flora provided an address to the faculty with a review of the high points of the year. He listed fiscal hardships, a tent city in front of Old Main, the beginnings of the Huxley College of the Environment, and also, in Jerry's word, new parking regulations that were developed, then modified, and modified, and modified. He concluded the review saying, "It's been a damned difficult quarter. I did not enjoy the way the calendar year ended, but I'm very glad that it did. The remainder of the year will not be easy. I wish I could speak glowingly and optimistically about our prospects for additional funding, but I cannot." Well, my habit is candor also. And I did enjoy very much Western's 2012-13. I think last year was the strongest academic year in my 41-year academic career. The remainder of the year to come will also be full of initiatives we have to move forward, but also questions to ponder, for they bear on Western's future direction. Western's annual report, just out, provides a record of last year's accomplishments. The URL is on the back of your program. It's a lengthy accounting of so much achieved, so much to celebrate. However, accomplishing lots could mean accomplishing little. Little accomplished unless what we do measures up against our core mission, our values, our vision. That yardstick for so measuring can also be found in the program. It's the mission and strategic plan. I think the shared values on the back of that page are the most important part of the plan. Exceptional people, leading-edge inquiry, liberal arts the core, building professional skills, embracing diversity, stewards of resources. So did we walk that talk last year? Protecting our strengths comes first. Nothing can be achieved if we are not strong. Western's strength is its people. It is you. Assuring that continuing strength is paramount. And so competitive compensation has been our top priority. Yours, mine, our trustees. I think while further progress is certainly necessary, today we can celebrate the increases in place for faculty, professional staff, and classified colleagues. True, we took some criticism for this on editorial pages from the governor's office and even from some of our higher ed colleagues on other campuses. Some predicted funding for public four-year higher ed would suffer as a punitive legislative response to Western's investment in our outstanding faculty. We did the right thing. The legislature also did the right thing. For the first time in years, the state operating budget includes significant increases for four-year public higher education. Was Western penalized for doing the right thing? The average increase in funding for the six publics was 12%, average 12%. Second highest increase was at the UW, was 17%. The highest increase was 28% at Western Washington University. Yes, we took some risks, politically, fiscally, but that's a territory leaders must occupy, and Western Washington University is nothing if it's not a leader. Western is also strong because of the caliber of our students. Our strength depends then on their being able to afford to attend. We have covered our compensation commitments along with a number of other initiatives without raising tuition for resident undergraduates one dime. Protecting our strengths and living our values also means assuring the strength of the liberal arts core. To understand the truth of this enduring commitment, we need only look no further than our many successful alums. There's Jack Bowman, a name we know because Jack and his wife Joanne have been very generous in supporting our core mission. After graduating from Western, Jack's first job was teaching music in the Ferndale Public Schools. He went on to a highly successful career as a leader in a major international pharmaceutical company. He credits his success to the critical thinking abilities he developed in the liberal arts here at Western. There's Julie Larson Green, top Microsoft executive, her major at Western, economics. There's the alum that recently retired Boeing senior vice president. She majored in German while at Western. And there's the alum I met in Tokyo a couple of months ago. From Kirkland, as I recall, he fell in love with the Chinese language while here at Western. An East Asian Studies major, he had no particular career plans. When 2 weeks after graduation, a former roommate called from Japan and said, "Hey, it's really neat here, why don't you come on over?" So he sold his Datsun to get the money for the plane ticket, packed his backpack, and headed to the East. His passion for language and for writing took him to his current position, the editor of a major Asian financial publication headquartered in Tokyo. What these examples illustrate is that the value of the liberal arts education is not simply great as ever, it truly is greater than ever. Our students, by and large, get it. They vote with their feet. Enrollments in the liberal arts and sciences remain strong as ever. Our outstanding professional programs get it, too. To a degree I've not seen elsewhere, they explicitly tout the strength of their programs as based upon Western's strong liberal arts core. This all explains why last year, despite continuing budget difficulties, we doubled down on our commitment to the core. After far too long a hiring freeze, we began last year and now have filled 60 permanent faculty positions. Exactly 75% of those are in the liberal arts, including the sciences. And by all reports, we're able to attract outstanding new faculty. In part, this is because we addressed issues of competitive compensation. The bulk of the funding added for salaries, chair compensation, and the like, and related matters go to sustaining the strength of the liberal arts and sciences. The initiatives funded through last spring's budget process added a dozen new faculty positions. Most are in the liberal arts and sciences. We funded growing demand in the sciences. They have seen a 40% increase in majors over the past 6 years. And they did this without taking funds from programs that, given our level enrollment, had to have seen enrollment decreases. And we sustained a hallmark of Western's excellence, relying upon tenure and tenure-track faculty to a degree simply not found at our peer institutions. In fact, we've actually done better over the recent years as they shifted more and more to adjuncts. So we took care of the core excellence of Western, our people, students importantly included, and the liberal arts core. How about living other of Western's commitments? Look down the list in your program. We're committed to be a place to build professional skills and abilities. And we have now been funded to move 3 of our top-notch engineering technology programs to what Washington's economy now more needs, mainline engineering. We're also funded to double the number of our computer science graduates. We strive for a collaborative environment across our campus where we come together to advance our mission. And we now have established and funded the Institute for Energy Studies. This is a 3-college initiative bringing together disciplinary, interdisciplinary, and professional strengths to focus on a major global concern. The only thing like it we're aware of is at Stanford. Across the campus again, supporting our mission, colleges, academic support units, our foundation board, and advancement built a compelling Western Stands for Washington campaign. It is, by the way, exceeding all expectations in its fundraising success. Thank you, Dan, to the foundation board for that leadership. Western is to be a responsible steward of resources. Last year, we had an energy and water conservation project spanning 28 buildings, and we instituted a wide range of sustainability actions, ranging from those involving including those involving bottled water and locally sourced real foods. Again, our students providing the leadership there. Thank you to our students, Carly. In partnership with Olympic College, we established a much-needed presence in Paulsbo, and we also responded to the local and statewide need for more baccalaureate-prepared nurses. We would, and we come to a value that's really closest to my heart, and that is an environment that welcomes and embraces diversity. Last year, we admitted, and are now about to welcome, the most diverse incoming Western class so far. Far more diverse than is the state of Washington. We formed the President's Task Force on Equity, Inclusion, and Diversity that then promptly brought forward recommendations for real, tangible change. We acted to address a federal tax penalty faced by same-sex couples, while other public entities were backing away. We publicly and positively spoke out on the Marriage Equality Bill, the only Washington public higher education institution to so do. We addressed a long list of accessibility needs, and we gave funding priority to 5 major diversity initiatives. That's a small example of what we together achieved last year, living our values. It's important to remember why we fared so well. We protected and invested in core strengths upon which all else depends: our people, the liberal arts. We stayed together and on message. We organized in ways unusual within higher education, and then were heard. We were highly regarded for the quality of our programs, and then seen as a place where further investments would yield similar high-quality results. And we, perhaps better than other institutions, brought to Olympia well-thought-out proposals responsive to state legislative priorities. I'd be remiss if I did not also recognize the real legislative leadership that stood up for higher education and for Western through a very long process. They all deserve our sincere thanks. And of course, we owe Sherry Berkey, our Associate Vice President of Government Relations, our gratitude for her dedication and effectiveness. She was not alone, and I also convey our thanks to faculty, student, union, trustee, alumni board, private sector, and foundation board leadership, as well as to Western advocates. Turning to the year ahead, the most important work we'll do is what we have always done, to continue to do what we have done so well, to be Washington's premier public undergraduate university. When it comes to further efforts, things new, last year's accomplishments also define an exciting agenda for the year ahead, advancing initiatives already begun, making now-funded proposals reality. And I'm not going to talk about any of that. I leave that in your talented hands. Last year included a comprehensive external review of my performance. The results overall were as strongly supportive as our external evaluator has ever seen. My satisfaction comes from serving you, and so your positive assessment did mean a great deal to me. But more valuable to me, you suggested areas needing attention. One specific observation I will share, to be more succinct in my communications. Blog posts, email messages, and yes, convocation speeches. Thank you, Cindy. I will try to do my best this morning. Turning to more serious matters, you raised 2 general concerns. I'm going to be able to see you. One involved aspects of our efforts in academic affairs. First, I want to personally thank Dr. Catherine Reardon for her dedicated efforts and for all she was able to accomplish. Much of last year's stellar accomplishments trace directly to Catherine's priorities, her collaborative leadership, and her skillful execution. I know you join me in appreciating those efforts, in respecting her decision to seek new career directions, and in wishing her the very best. I am pleased that Dr. Brent Carbajal has stepped forward to provide leadership. I charged Provost Carbajal with critically examining our current approaches in order to assure that we meet your expectations for academic affairs leadership, certainly committed to our core values, and that is visionary, certainly, but also effective, responsive, and dependable. In his announcement last Friday, you find clear evidence of his thoughtfully but promptly acting on that responsibility. While on the subject of transitions, thank you, Professor Stout, for not 1, but 2 years of superb Faculty Senate leadership. Professor Neem, thank you for stepping forward in order to assure that Western's excellence can continue. He can't be here, but I have communicated my feelings to him. I am deeply appreciative of all that UFWW President Professor Garfinkel and my friend contributed through countless hours of largely uncompensated leadership. I look forward to working with incoming UFWW President Professor Lambert on the commitments to Western's vitality for which we share responsibility. I said you identified through the external review process 2 areas of concern. The second, and this is where I'll focus the remainder of my remarks, involves clarifying Western's strategic direction. Your concerns are twofold: to have a clear sense of where Western is going, and to make sure that sense is broadly understood across the university, that it penetrates past the vice presidents, the deans, the faculty and staff leadership. I've spent much of my time this summer thinking about this. I've explored it in conversations with many. My discipline teaches me that leadership, where the organization is complicated, the mission multifaceted, the environment changing, and where the people are talented, that's best done by asking questions rather than offering answers. So I'm going to ask 6 questions. They're really not my questions. They come from listening to you. Hundreds of you at various levels of the university are already at work on them. Still, I believe the way we answer them will bear directly upon Western's future. So I want to raise them to a level where we can all be involved. First, consider what I believe to be Washington's greatest threat. It's the constricted pipeline to baccalaureate education. Other nations get it. In the developed and developing world, the generation coming into adulthood is better prepared than the generation that preceded it. There is an outlier. It is us. The coming generation in the United States is going to be less well-educated than the generation that preceded it. The U.S. as a whole is failing. Within the U.S., where does the state of Washington stand? Near last, 46th out of the 50 states. You've previously heard me sound this warning. You may not have heard me as forcefully point to a part of the solution. I spent several weeks this summer meeting with leaders of many universities in Asia. There was one common denominator. They all were hungry for more international students, for the same academically important reasons that motivate us, but also as a matter of survival, the survival of their universities, the survival of their national economies. They point to a 25% overcapacity. They have the seats but not the applicants. Universities are being closed. More will be closed. They tell me that business and industry, needing a better and better educated workforce, are running scared. Why is this happening? It's the demographic collapse. With decades of smaller family size, college-age folks are no longer out there in the usual numbers. The same problems are also found in much of Europe, by the way. What about the United States? We have an edge. We're growing. Through immigration and through the different family size choices that currently characterize certain of these more recent arrivals. Therein lies the reason why Western fights for the DREAM Act, in order that undocumented students could qualify for federal and state need-based financial aid. Our associated student partners were in the lead and did a superb job. We have to report, of course, that the federal and the state DREAM Acts have not made it over the goal line yet. Think about that. I don't care what your politics are, liberal or conservative, Tea Party or Pot Party. In these growing populations, we have a powerful competitive edge. Cashing in on that advantage is a matter of pure self-interest, ours, our states, our nations. Education is how we cash in that advantage. Understandably, the young people brought to our shores by their parents may call it the DREAM Act. For those of us in positions of privilege and who wish to sustain our well-being, it should be called the Wake Up and Smell the Coffee Act. Bringing Western into that picture, there are several questions we need to discuss. State colleges and universities historically and around the country have been points of access for first-generation college students. Here, Western is an outlier. Our students are more likely than at other state colleges and universities to come from upper middle-class families where parents have gone to college. In Washington, high school graduation numbers have recently declined. They are projected to now remain flat. Those flat lines, though, mask a major shift. The strata of high school grads from which we have traditionally drawn students are shrinking. They are being replaced by those coming from different socioeconomic strata. How do we respond? Your call in the end, my feeling, enthusiastically. We enthusiastically embrace the opportunity to live our vision, applying Western's many strengths to critical state needs. There are implications for our academic programs, for the academic support services we must then have, for our approaches to financial aid, for many, many aspects of Western as we know it today. What does this mean for our current niche as Western's premier public undergraduate university? I see the opportunity, if we do it right, for us to even more proudly live that role. And there's a simple matter of our institutional well-being. If we continue to draw largely upon the traditional sources for students, it means we will face the same sort of demographic collapse I saw in Asia. Our selectivity, already somewhat declining, will disappear. We will struggle to find students whose tuition has become so very large a part of our budget. Fewer students will mean fewer of us. So there's question one. How can we most effectively respond university-wide to the changing demography of Washington high school graduates and transfer students? Closely related are questions of access, affordability, and quality. As I must constantly emphasize, the costs per student at Western have been declining the last 15 years. What the public sees, though, are not our costs, but our price, tuition. Many leaders in our state recognize that our capacity for tuition increase is about exhausted. And their choice to reinvest in our institution is a great beginning, but we need to recognize that as good as the budget was for us, our state's revenue structure is fundamentally flawed, based as it is on an economy that no longer exists. As challenging as affordability and access are, we must always emphasize that those two concerns alone are insufficient. We can easily take care of affordability and access if that's all we care about, if we don't care about what our students and what the state of Washington ends up getting. So whenever we speak about affordable access, we must make sure we add those important words to quality. So there's a second question. What can we at Western do right here to keep access to a quality college education affordable? Each year I've stood up here and I've said, if Western is as white in the years ahead as it is today, we will have failed as a university. I know you think the same, for last year you met those words with a standing ovation. This is the third question, and I put it just that simply. How do we make sure in the years ahead we're not as white as we are today? We are making progress. Our entering student body includes 26% who are from communities of color. Our graduation rates for students of color are good. You continue to make progress, slow but progress nonetheless, in the absolutely essential diversification of our faculty and staff. Among our new hires, 13% of our new faculty are from communities of color. It is 17% for our staff. I do hope you took time to read the surveys of campus climate. If not, they're located on the Equity, Inclusivity, and Diversity webpage. We are a campus where today, 2013, the way our colleagues, faculty, staff, students experience Western depends very much upon their race, their gender, their sexual orientation, in their experiences with prejudice and discrimination, in their satisfactions with their work environment, and in the impediments to their success. I know we all share the aspiration that we are to be a campus, a community, where every one of us is enabled to reach our fullest potential. We have many, many efforts underway. This year, in this year's budget, we offered several more. It's now time for a strategic review and reassessment. Here, and I cannot stress this strongly enough, progress is the responsibility of each and every one of us. Western has long been known for the quality of its traditional campus-based undergraduate programs. Yet the need for lifelong learning is genuinely growing. People need education where they are, in their lives, in their careers, and in the state of Washington. Panaceas are being unrealistically grasped. For-profit education, online efforts like the Western Governors University, massive open online courses or MOOCs, converting two-year colleges to four-year. It's a very competitive environment, even if we disregard the fads, the unrealistic promises, and the charlatans. Well-regarded universities are extending their education thousands of miles to Seattle and to Bellingham. Here I find a fourth question. When it comes to our goal of applying our considerable strengths to Washington's needs, what should we give priority to doing off of our campus? From my very first conversations with you, you have told me we need to be much more effectively internationalized as a campus. Progress is being made, and I am very appreciative of the leadership provided in academic affairs, in enrollment and student services, through the newly reorganized Center for International Studies, and across the campus. Here, though, is another area where it is not simply doing more of what has traditionally been done. The international environment has changed rapidly and continues to change. Perhaps the greatest change comes from what I think of as a hub-and-spoke model, where the United States is the hub and we send and receive students along spokes to other countries, to what is really a network model in which the United States is just one of many, many nodes in that network. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that any university anywhere in the world wanting to stay at the cutting edge must be fully immersed in this international web and almost everything that it does. Question 5 then emerges. How is Western going to play in a future where leading universities of necessity are fully globally engaged? And the final question, the one closest to where I live, and it's one that may not be a question at all, but it's the one I heard you ask most often, show the greatest concern for last year, and that's the question of what is to be the role of the liberal arts and sciences here at Western. Now, for me, the centrality of the liberal arts and sciences is not open to question at all. You heard me earlier explain that we have doubled down on sustaining this, what must be and continue to be our core commitment here at Western. And why is that? I've offered some reasons, but I just recently received a wonderful letter from a colleague here at Western, and he really nailed it for me. I'm going to read a paragraph from his letter. He was pondering the question of how we persuade our students of the value of the liberal arts and sciences, the humanities specifically. And he said it's probably impossible unless, and I quote, unless we can find the magic formula for explaining how a liberal arts education, and an education in the humanities especially, can engender an awareness and the ability in young people to be who they are and to create their own lives. Not a life foisted upon them by circumstance and passivity, but ones they themselves wrought out of circumstance and opportunity. One where they use language rather than have it use them. Where they have learned to make connections between seemingly disparate experiences, events, and expressions and turn them into something meaningful, where they have learned to see the world from the perspectives of others, where empathy and some bedrock ethical sensibilities are developed as strengths and a deeply felt part of the quality of life, and that is buoyed by the enjoyment of music, literature, gardens, mountains, and the sea. Very eloquently put, I put it more prosaically, the liberal arts are the liberating arts. Yet the external STEM drumbeat continues, perhaps in increasing volume. Do we simply ignore it? Do we think it's a problem of more effectively communicating what is higher about higher education? Or are there lessons to learn there for how the liberal arts and sciences at Western can best evolve? After all, our current liberal arts and sciences are a long ways from the trivium of classical antiquity and the quadrivium of the medieval ages. So that's a question before us, whether you accept my premise or not, that the centrality of the liberal arts is not anything we should question. Still, for us to take the opportunity to collegially discuss what the liberal arts are and are to be at Western has great intrinsic value. I understand our faculty senate wants to take a look at what our general education requirements should be with an eye to improving and perhaps fundamentally changing them. That strikes me as the perfect venue for exactly that kind of discussion. Well, you asked me, you pointed out to me that Western really needs help fleshing out its future strategic directions, and I completely agree. My approach, though, is to not offer answers. It is to ask questions. Really, it is to raise for all of us to consider questions that various of you have been asking in recent years. That is so you can come up with the answers meaningful for all of us. When I first got here, I held the first few months 90 conversations with every unit in the university. The next year, I held 100 conversations around the state and different parts of the country. All were very useful. I think what we now need are a much smaller number of sustained, ongoing conversations on questions that bear directly about the future of the university. A number of these efforts are already underway, and many of you are already involved in aspects of these questions, and I don't want to duplicate those efforts. However, I ask you to think about the questions that really catch your interest, that you think are really critical, and identify those and then participate, get engaged. Opportunities to become engaged will be forthcoming. We appropriately vest responsibility for planning and strategic budgeting in academic affairs because it's academic affairs that ought to drive what the rest of the university does. Consequently, Provost Carbajal will have the responsibility then to form and engage the groups and the discussions. Our University Planning and Resources Council, the Faculty Senate's UPRC, will be listening to the conclusions we together reach and then making recommendations on how we might modify, refine our current strategic plan, vision, and values. Well, I started with words from Jerry Flora that he offered 43 years ago. I'm going to conclude in the same vein. Jerry addressed the issues of that time with great candor. I've attempted to speak forthrightly with you about the questions I see in our future. But he said in conclusion, I urge us all to reach for the stars. Let Western be known as a place where nothing is more important than the business of learning, and let us do it well. Appropriate to the challenges 43 years ago, appropriate to Western today, very appropriate to the Western of the future. Thank you for being here and have a very good year.